For WhoGivesAFlying.org, I'm the Underground Conservative. Well, the big buzz this week is the Eric Massa quotes, talking about Rahm's tush, fingers in chests, naked as a jaybird, and all that good stuff. Massa unloaded on Emanuel after being forced out by an ethics investigation into his tickling of his good Navy buddies. But interestingly, the conservative mantra that Massa seemed to deliver quite forcefully, saying such things as that to govern effectively, you have to have the will of the governed, and that he was being pushed out because he was the deciding no vote on health care. And health care passage would cause damage for a generation, as the Dems were going to ram it through. I don't know, maybe that was leftover verbiage from his Navy days, but ironically, he is being repudiated by Limbaugh and Hannity, etc., as being something of a red herring. And they're also throwing in that Massa is a sleaze bucket. Well, he is in Congress. But considering his previous opposition to health care was based on it not being liberal enough, how does one go from voting no to this health care legislation is going to cause damage for an entire generation? I don't know. But I do know one thing. With his ability to deliver juicy quotes, he does have a future in radio. Chicago, a city renowned for its semi-socialist ways, the political nurturing spot of Barack Obama, the home of Saul Alinsky, and the place where the phrase clout and who sent you became synonymous with its big city politics. This story has an interesting twist. Jim Maurer, gruff-talking, straight-shooting former Chicago Police Department bigwig, and most recently a highly paid $130,000 a year security honcho at O'Hare, is suing the city and Aviation Commissioner Rosemary Andolino after he got fired. But here's the interesting part. Maurer claims that security is light and takes a back seat to other priorities. Now, the other priorities in this case are very pro-business, pro-consumer, and in line with actually trying to make improvements that people appreciate and benefit from, as opposed to simply padding patronage payrolls. We would normally agree with Maurer, but in this case, O'Hare's Aviation Commissioner was emphasizing the modernization and expansion of O'Hare. Who'd have thunk it? In the land of the 2-hour city workday and the dead working twice, voting twice, principles of making your customers happy actually taking precedence. Well, out of New York, we have the story of the male air traffic controller at Kennedy Airport, who was suspended for allowing his young son to voice radio instructions to several pilots for a few minutes. Now, we here at WhoGivesAFlying.org have convened our massive editorial department and our thousands of very low-paid staff members to craft a clear and concise response to this breach of workplace protocol. And we are not upset. We do not think it was worthy of suspension. And we do believe that if it had been Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, taking her daughter to work in the air traffic control tower, it would have been lauded and shown on TV and described in terms of great social progress. I am sure the guy wasn't having his kid make up things to tell the pilot, like, hey, do a quickie flyover of Susie Jones' house and see if she's out suntanning her bikini, or could you do a quick touchdown over Boston and grab me some chowder? He was simply parroting what his old man was telling him to say. So we give a shout out of support and a clenched fist in the air. No monetary support, however. To the controller, and say to his superiors, lighten up, Francis. It's not like his kid's little higher-pitched voice saying, runway 14 right, roger, you're all clear. Wait a minute, that sounds like Daly's voice, was screwing anything up. Eric Larson, good name for a guy doing a North Pole, South Pole trek. Kind of keeping with the tradition of Nordic explorers. Except Eric, unlike the good old days of Leif Erikson, is not sailing the seven seas with rough and tumble scallywags, and then raping and pillaging the countryside while claiming new lands for the fatherland. Rather, he is out to sound the alarm bell about what? Of course, global warming. Yes, 5 points on your scorecards at home, kiddies. That was an easy one. He states on his blog that never was the time greater for climate change legislation. But then he adds that his is a soft sell, probably because he's waking up at 40 below every day. And I love how these guys do these things that are going to be very unpleasant, then complain about how completely unpleasant they are. Like they had no idea that waking up at 40 below was going to be a major pain in the ass. But they will persevere because the cause is so great. And of course, every leg of his journey is being carried on the MSN homepage under their environment section. Now, what are the odds on MSN carrying an environment article on a guy proving that global warming is just a flat-out fraud? Yeah, that was an easy one, too. Well, even the Irish have become afflicted with political correctness. Denny's, God bless their hearts, they just can't win. They're either paying millions for the black guy they may wait a half an hour for a cup of coffee, or offending the Irish. I'll tell you, they're going to be up for that colonization of the moon. Maybe they can start fresh with the moon people. No politically ginned up nationalities, races, genders, or sexual orientations, just waiting to find something offensive. Well, at least something other than Denny's food. Denny's was doing a commercial for an all-you-can-eat pancakes and french fries offer through March as a tie-in with St. Patty's Day. But they also tied it in as a celebration of the 150th anniversary of the end of the Irish potato famine. And this got some of the Irish upset. I mean, Denny's wasn't asking for the famine to come back. God, apparently all the races just got to take a comedic chill pill. And now for something really important. Are annual prostate exams necessary? What may be evidence of a political tie-in with the Obama administration as part of the health care reform / phony baloney cost reduction efforts, the fact that one of the suggestions is annual digital rectal exams for men over 50 are now an option rather than a mandatory part of treating sounds good to me. That one I can get bipartisan approval on. And in a sign of the times, real face-to-face people interaction down 37%. Facebook interaction up 100%. Yes, Facebook is now up to 470 million profiles, compared with only 236 million the year before. And now switching gears, Chicago Sun-Times columnist Neil Steinberg recently had an article lauding the mayor of Chicago for being against the possible overturning of Chicago's gun ban by the Supreme Court. The mayor commented, "Why can't I go to the Supreme Court and sit there with a gun and listen to the arguments? If a gun is so important to us on the street or someone's home, why can't I go to the Supreme Court and sit there with a gun? I'm not going to shoot anyone, but I have a right to have that gun," the mayor said, dripping with sarcasm and a little bit of a high pitch. However, the mayor and Steinberg were both checkmated by a very simple letter to the editor on that very same day. Mr. John Q. Public writes, "Are the mayor's bodyguards armed?" And of course they are. So the obvious question is, once again, a la Rosie O'Donnell, how come there's so much hypocrisy from these people who take strong anti-gun positions? I don't think anyone wants to do harm to the mayor, but Rosie O'Donnell, now that's another story. Torii Hunter committed an error, and then Yahoo Sports columnist Ken Rosenthal compounded it. Hunter, a black outfielder with the Los Angeles Angels, said Latino players were imposters. And, oh, okay. Okay. I'm going to look at this camera and then come over to this one. Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. And from hypocrisy to an outright error. Torii Hunter committed an error, and then Yahoo Sports columnist Ken Rosenthal compounded it. Hunter, a black outfielder with the Los Angeles Angels, said that Latino players were imposters and taking jobs away from African Americans, which on its face is stupid enough. I mean, stupid is as stupid does. But then Rosenthal compounds it by saying that by having only 9% of baseball players being African American, baseball is in danger of becoming an elitist sport. So white kids playing a game of pickup baseball in the proverbial sandlot has been upgraded to an elitist sport, now by a politically correct columnist who has decided that the easier response to Hunter's comments is to say that somehow, while his words were wrong, his comments point to a greater truth. All righty now. American black population, 12%. NBA, 90% black. NFL, 70% black. Major League Baseball, 9% black. And baseball has the problem? That's your Sports Political Correctness 2010. Well, sometimes it just doesn't pay to advertise, or maybe you should get your cosmetics from Avon instead of Mary Kay. Randall Rigsby had the misfortune of driving around in an all-pink car while having 12 outstanding warrants against him. Needless to say, he was spotted and after chasing Interstate 40 was arrested. However, he did look very good on his mugshots. For WhoGivesAFlying.org, see you next time.